All right, welcome everybody. We are live. This is going to be, I know, an unusual time of day for me to be streaming, but it's a lunchtime. It's nice to take a lunch break, and who better to talk to than Jason Brubaker? Welcome, Jason, to the channel.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
You bet. Yeah, it's always fun talking to you. We've done, I don't know, I think this is our third stream now, kind of moving back and forth.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So it's always good to talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Oh, is this your screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, I just shared it with you. Oh yeah, thanks for putting that up.
Nice. I like.
This is what I've been working on recently. So this is I finished this yesterday on a live stream. I didn't finish it. I started it yesterday. So this is what I'm working on currently.
Is this Phobos?
This is Phobos. Yeah.
Phobos. Okay. Very cool. What is Phobos about? I know I've tuned in and watched you drawing a little bit, but I have no idea. It looks like fun, kind of horror-esque.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Kind of
yeah, fun horror. It's monsters, mad scientists, werewolves, mummies, Frankenstein's, vampires. It's based. So Phobos is a vampire. He is stuck in mid-transformation between being a bat and a man.
Oh.
And I actually have a nice page I could show you of Phobos, if you don't mind waiting for me to find it.
No, you're good.
Yeah, and he was a once all-powerful vampire, and 700 years ago, and then he fell into his toxic moat and got knocked unconscious and got stuck in mid-transformation. And so this is what he looks like now. He's just kind of worthless and pathetic, and lost all of his power, lost a lot of his memory. So it's a story about him getting his memory back and his power back, and what he will choose to do with it now that he's been befriended by a group of other misfits. So
nice. I like that. That's a cool page. Is it all in black and white?
It's all black and white. I'm purposely making it look like old film grain. It looks a lot more grainy on screen than it does on my computer. If I turn down this filter a little bit, it'll probably look a little better. There we go. Yeah, it's all to match the old black and white classic horror movies, mummies and Nosferatu and all that stuff. So
cool.
It's just a joy to work on.
I love that because viewers of this channel know I just discovered that I am related to Bram Stoker. and I had to really, really bend over backward to make the connection there. But I proved it on a live stream. We're related. But it's like something like 11th cousins 4 times removed, or 4th cousins 11 times removed, something like that. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
But I'll stake my claim there. Why not?
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I gotta say too. So I got your book. I got all of them. The 6-pack of Sithra books.
Yeah.
And what was cool about it is I feel like most of the comics I'm getting, they're just for me. And I have a hard time getting anyone to read them. But with your books, I sat down and just read them out loud to my kids. They couldn't get enough. We had to read all of them together. And they just loved it. So it was fun. I want to have that experience more often where I'm enjoying something and my kids are enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated that. Great. Excellent job on that.
That's the best compliment ever. I'm glad that worked out for you.
No, it was.
I love it.
Great.
I love it when parents get it and then the kids obsess over it and read it over and over, and then the parents and the kids are talking about it, and it's just like it's exactly what I wanted it to be, because I wanted to make something that I would love to pick up, but that my grandma wouldn't be offended by.
Yeah.
She wouldn't get it, but she wouldn't be offended by it.
Right.
And so that's really good to hear.
No.
It's nice to hear.
It's funny because you see so the reaction with my kids is it starts out a little tragic, and for kids, and then you see the Sithra for the first time. I don't want to spoil anything, but at first they're just like, what is that? And you did a good job of like conveying that. And then it's like, oh, he's cute. And then once they realize, oh, he's cute, then it's like, okay, he's a good guy, so it was fun. It was very, it got
pretty dark towards the end. Were they okay with that?
Yeah, they
probably didn't understand it all.
They were, there's probably some of that, but they loved the Sithra character. They're just cute,
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was fun. but yeah, they probably on their level are understanding it. Yeah,
Yeah.
on a different level. So it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. They'll come back to it when they're an adult and be like, "What? I can't believe I read
You know,
that."
yeah, sometimes I do that too. You know, I look
Yeah.
back at like
Me too.
kids shows I used to watch, even like Looney Tunes, and I think, wow, this as a
Mhm.
parent, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
would this fly? Like, there's so much
Exactly.
violence, but I don't know.
Yep.
Times have changed a little, I guess, but
Yeah.
there's still fun stuff. So
Yeah.
I love it. This is cool. So the other concept I think that is interesting. I think we brought this up a little bit, and that's kind of the reason you're here is cognitive drawing.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell me a little bit? So I'm not a very good artist, but I have like I'll go through stints of really pushing myself to improve. And you have
Yeah.
a new kind of take on, or I don't know, I think a unique take on how to really improve on drawing. You want to
Yeah.
explain that?
I really think it's kind of unique. I mean, there's a lot of facets to this that I'm discovering were taught a long time ago, but now with the internet and stuff, people like a lot of shortcuts. This is the book on memorizing anatomy, and like it is a shortcut in a sense because it's giving you all the tools and it's kind of holding your hand through the process. But it depends on you applying these exercises and doing the repetitive tasks and going through the worksheets. Like here's some examples of worksheets. They're really small, but it's a 160-page book where if you go through it, it's 90 days of exercises. You actually do these exercises, which are I've termed it cognitive exercises, where you do it from memory and then from reference, memory, reference, and that's the gist of the whole thing. But there's a lot of tutorials mixed in. There's a lot of different techniques kind of thrown into the book, and then mixed with some Scott McCloud style comics to kind of lead the conversation as you go through the book. And if you go through this whole thing, you will have basically practiced the human male anatomy from every angle, and will have in essence ingrained it into your memory. And there's the simple techniques are really kind of strangely easy, and they work, but no one seems to really have a class on it and teach it. So just to backtrack a little bit, when I first moved here about 5 years ago, I taught a class for free, just locally to the public, and there was about 10 students. And one of the weeks, I really wanted to try to break down this cognitive drawing technique, which is how I taught myself to draw, because I taught myself. I'm completely self-taught. And I wanted to try to make a worksheet for them so that they could understand the simplicity of this technique and get it and see the results. And I also wanted to test to see if it worked for other people, because it worked for me. I just didn't know if it was just my brain, but it worked really well for learning styles and techniques and anatomy back in the day when I was trying to break in. And, I started my career at 20. So I feel like doing these techniques kind of fast tracked me into Hollywood. I started doing storyboards right away, and I could draw them really fast, So I did this, I put together this, a worksheet, and it was a real simple thing where it just had a picture of the reference, and it said, okay, now cover up the reference, draw it from memory, without studying the reference, but just try to draw what you think you saw as good as you can. So it might have been a flexed arm, it might have been a girl's face, or a manga picture. It can be anything, a cartoon character. And then after you've drawn it as good as you can from memory, uncover it, draw it from a reference. And then your brain connects those dots of like what you couldn't remember at all. And it's so good, like for memorizing, when you do that, when you force your brain to do that. You try to remember it, and then you connect those dots. And it's called the testing effect. At least that's what cognitive psychology has termed it, is the testing effect. And then you go back and you try to do it again from memory. And so it was just a simple worksheet. It had like 8 panels. They're all blank, memory, reference, memory, reference. And people that took this class, some were like 50 years old, some were 8 years old and 10, and boys and girls, some drew, some were good at art, some never drawn. And all except for one lady, everybody was was blown away with it. And they were like, I can't believe I'm actually drawing. I can't believe I drew that. And the thing is, a week later, I'd talk to them and they're like, I still know how to draw that eye perfectly, you know? And so it really convinced me there's something else here that's powerful, that I think this should be out there. This should be a tool that's out there that people can use. It's just, I don't know where to find it. I don't know of anyone who's taught it. You know, in retrospect, I've found people who've taught it in class, but there was never a term for it. There was never a workbook for it or anything. So anyway, after that class, it got me excited, and I announced it online, like, okay, guys, I'm going to make a beta version. Is going to focus on the upper body. It'll be 40 days, or it'll be 30 days. Can I get beta testers to test this out and see if it works for other people like it does me? And I got 100 beta testers. I gave them a walkthrough, said, this is what I need you to do, commit to it. Everyone committed to it. And the goal was I could see their results, and I could get feedback, and I could get their suggestions and all that stuff. What didn't work, what did. And so the results were amazing. Like 90% again of people were just like, I can't believe it works. It's so great. I've never done this before. And there was a small group where it was like, it's not for me, you know, or I don't get it. You know, I just can't remember anything. I'm sorry, you know. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, there's always someone.
they're going to be outliers.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And so the thing that came out of that, though, was that I needed to put a lot more work into it. I needed to use references from models instead of references from just my art and my style. Some people don't want to learn my style. So if I have a model, that would really help. And so I hired a model and a bodybuilder, took a bunch of pictures. I kind of started orchestrating the book like a mixture of tutorials mixed with cognitive drawing exercises, mixed with just Scott McCloud style comics talking about a subject, and just went over the whole body. And it took me about 3 years from start to finish now to get the book finished. And I'm so convinced that this thing will improve someone's drawing, and that they will be excited about the result, that I didn't offer it on the Kickstarter, but I wanted to say, if anyone picks this thing up and they actually do it, even if they do half the book and they're not happy with what they're learning, send me the book and I'll give you your money back. It's just, I'm so convinced that it'll work for you. So that's kind of like my guarantee now, because I don't know of anything else like it, you know. And right. If you really want someone to kind of hold your hand and give you the exercises, give you the way to think when you're drawing, not to rip off How to Think When You Draw. I love Lorenzo's stuff, and that's a whole nother level of stuff right there. But I think this is just a perfect tool for beginners. It's perfect for homeschoolers. We've used it in charter schools and homeschools. I just got an email from another school saying, hey, I want to buy this for a classroom of 20 students for next year. And it's I don't know. I think I just want people to try it, you know. And you can honestly, if you back the campaign for $1, you can get the first 40 pages loadable right now, and you can actually try it, see if you like it, and if you like it, then just grab the book. It's $25. It's so much better than a $20,000 a year art education, you know. Yeah. So not to knock teachers, I love teachers, but there's a lot of ripoffs out there in art education, and right. I'm really against spending that kind of money for a lackluster education.
You can move right to the skill, like obtaining the skill, as opposed to a lot of the other peripheral stuff that comes up. Yeah. But I've got a question for you, and I guarantee this is one you probably get all the time, and that is with style. You mentioned that, you know, you tried to make this so it wasn't just learning how to draw in your style. Yeah. But how do you take this and then develop a style?
Well, the what this focuses on is anatomy. So it's like there's some examples of stylized eyes, like right here. This is a stylized eye, and you can learn styles with this technique, but you can also learn anatomy really well, and just body proportions and all that stuff. And so if you actually can memorize and get anatomy down, your style is going to it's going to come through. In fact, even one of the teacher at, I don't know where her quote is, but the teacher from the charter school, that was one of her compliments on the thing is it's self-guided, but then the kids can develop, it helps them refine their own style. Their own style kind of shines through. And I think a lot of it is because we're using photographic models, and then we're given suggestions of how to like look at the model and suggestions of where the main lines go. And what's fun is when I look at a classroom, when I go into a classroom and see them do this, every single one of them is so uniquely drawn, and their styles are really goofy and weird, but they are still getting things out of it, you know? And so it somehow, you know, it doesn't hinder anyone's style. If anything, I think it's going to help them discover their style. Because so many artists, young artists, they focus on trying to find the style first, and then they just get trapped. They just get pigeonholed in this corner of this weird, obscure style, and they can't get out of it because they've practiced it so hard, and it kind of breaks them, you know. I mean, unless you can find the thing that works, like Beavis and Butthead or Adventure Time type stuff, where it's just like it's supposed to be not real.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and there's a place for that. There definitely is. But even those kind of artists, well, maybe not Beavis and Butthead. Like if you learn to draw muscles and anatomy right, you're never going to go back to Beavis and Butthead.
It's like it gives you a platform to do.
Yeah. So,
like
so I don't think if anyone's worried about this will change their style, I don't think that's the case. I think it will be the opposite. I think this will help you discover your style, because your style is going to evolve and come out of everything you do. And honestly, I think you need to rip off all your favorite artists anyway, and a combination of all those artists will be your style. You know, because your style is just what you love to see. It's what you love to draw, what you love to see. Your influences is all the above, you know, what you actually know, versus what you don't know. And so if you know anatomy, it doesn't mean your style is going to be realistic. It means maybe your cartoony style will just have a better form to it that will make it, you know, stand out to people. Now, I mean, all the great animators, they knew how to draw anatomy really good, and then they would draw simple. You know, there's a real skill in being able to simplify something and make it look good. You know, and the anatomy is a basic foundational tool in all that. You know, so sorry, my voice is getting all crazy.
Oh, you're good. You're good. No, this is it's interesting. It's nice. So again, for me, who's like casually, sometimes I'm more serious about getting better at drawing. But for me, it's like the big part is like, well, where do I start? Yeah, and I think usually you end up just trying to draw what you feel like drawing.
Yeah,
then you're missing holes. At least I know I am. Yeah, so it's kind of nice to have a method to the madness.
That's exactly. You know? Yeah, that's exactly it. Let me actually pull up some of the pages, and then I can kind of go through them a little easier instead of just on this small little website. Yeah, I think that's the problem, is like there's a practice that's good for you and a practice that isn't. If you're just sitting there practicing squiggles and weird characters, you're going to ingrain that into everything you do. And you know, and again, Mike Judge did fine with Beavis and Butthead. So if you want to take your chances, that's fine, you know. But there's got to be, it's not about the art anymore, you know. So if you want to be a good artist, that's not not the way to go.
And the nice thing is, if you know good anatomy, you can always make choices and decide to do a style that's very Beavis-y, you know.
And I mean, look at this. This is not anatomy right here. But there's hints of anatomy in this, you know, but it's a very stylized style.
Yeah.
This is completely me.
And even understanding form, you know, and I think that probably carries over. Like, there you go. There's a lot of anatomy there. It's stylized, but
it's super stylized. All this anatomy is broken. But the thing is, I know how to do it right.
Yeah.
It's just that the style of this is not photorealistic,
Right.
But, I mean, look at this guy. He's a stick figure practically in the foreground. This little skinny guy with a huge afro. Like, it just,
right.
There's kind of some anatomy in the hands, but I did it really quick.
and he's probably consistent from page to page. I mean, the pages I've seen, he's consistent. So
exactly, yeah. So
I like it.
Let me
I'm just going to post the link here in the chat as well to Cognitive Drawing. It's on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the PDF here. So this is part of the first 40 pages. So the first ones, it just teaches you kind of the basic rules. And then it starts out saying, okay, now draw a muscly guy here as good as you can from memory. At the end of the book, we'll do it again. And I really want to see people's before and afters, if they go through the whole book, because that to me is the most exciting part. And then it breaks down basic things like proportions, just weird little tests like drawing it upside down once you've practiced the proportions. This concept of memory consolidation, which is a real thing. If you go to sleep after really trying something hard or going through something aggressively or having a intense experience, when you sleep on it, your brain can consolidate those memories and then you can recall them easier later. So this whole concept of daily exercises and coming back to these things, it really strengthens the long-term memory. Then there's basic things like tutorials. This is real basic, but the difference here is like, okay, now recreate this tutorial, because the goal is for you to be able to teach this to someone else. If you just draw that finished eye and go through the steps and do it, you haven't done the work to really retain that, So all the tutorials, it's about recreating those tutorials. And then, we go through some kind of basic exercises with the face, even though it's not about faces, it's not about style. But I figured I had to hit it at least a little bit. And then we get into muscles, and there's things like this, like drawing the muscle shapes over things. And then that gets into the bread and butter of it, which is these cognitive drawing exercises. We talk about muscle memory a little bit, but
if you're doing it right, you're drawing right in the book. Is that correct?
That's the goal. Part of being a good artist is having the self motivation to sit down and do this stuff. And so I'm trying to help people get into a pattern of that self discipline of sitting down and doing this every day or at least so many days a week. Mirror imaging. It's just all this stuff is sketch versions of it, fill up the page with sketches. And then there's tutorials, basic tutorials.
This must have been quite an undertaking to make this book. Like looking through it, I'm like, wow.
It was insane. Especially this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I gotta figure out how to break this stuff down really simple. And when I started this page, I was like, well, I don't even have a good understanding of pelvises. I don't even, that's a struggle point for me even. I always cover it up with clothes. So what is it really, how do we really break it down? So it took a lot of work for me to figure it out. So here it's like, okay, now you've now draw the pelvis of this guy right here based on what we did on the last page. And then here it's like, now draw all the missing pelvises in. And then when you flip the page, it has all those. And so you can flip back and forth like an animation cell and compare, and refine it. And then it moves forward and it's like, okay, now draw the skeleton under here. Now draw the skin over the skeleton. Now, now here's the waist, and here's how to think about it. Now draw the waist muscles over top of these boxes, and then you can flip back and compare the results,
Wow.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, as well as these cognitive studies, which I think are the best. If you really want to memorize things, do this, which is the whole concept. Again, you'll turn to this page and you'll immediately cover up this top half with the reference, and then you'll just try to draw this body, the chest and the abdominal muscles, from memory as good as you can. I mean, everyone knows that what it's supposed to look like, but to actually sit down and do it is hard, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then you uncover it, and then you compare, and you look at these models, and then you do it, and your brain just connects those dots so weird, like quickly. You're like, oh, that's what I did wrong. And then the next time you cover it all up, you do it from memory again. It's amazing what you've retained. Yeah. And it's a super simple process, but no one teaches it. No one has a workbook for it. And so that's when I realized that there was something valuable here. I was like, okay, I got to just do it. If I don't do it, then eventually someone's going to do this. So right. I'm kind of glad no one has, because then I can say, hey, here it is.
on the first. Yeah.
Yeah. First.
That's great.
So, and there's simple things and simple and complicated.
Yeah. Feet and hands those are tough, man. for me. They're really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's so many ways you can do them. But I also see too, then, so when I'm, and I'm a writer primarily, but when I'm looking at art to hire an artist, anatomy is the biggest. I think that's the first thing that I'm looking for, is any anatomy that doesn't look correct. And again, it's like one of those things that it's easier to spot than it is to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can, when something's off.
Everyone's a human, so we all see ourselves in the mirror every day. So
right,
you can tell when someone's deformed, or when someone's drawing is deformed, and and so it's one of those invisible things that if you get this, it makes everything else that you draw so much better. Mm-hmm. And because you can cover up bad anatomy with clothes. Kinda, if you have a really good understanding of how clothes fold, but then you need to understand the anatomy under the clothes to figure out how they're folding and why they're folding. So so maybe you just have a round suit over top of someone. You could cover up your anatomy.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Ball man or something.
Yeah.
That's good. Maybe I should do that. I could get through drawing a book like that. Yeah. So another question then too is, like, in comics, another thing I'm always looking for is dynamic angles and poses, just because it's so much more interesting, than just having flat on stuff. But I imagine you get the anatomy down, it's going to be, you have so much more freedom then to do that anatomy from different angles. Yeah,
I think if you can get the anatomy from all the different main angles, then rotating that body around is really easy to do in your mind. It's a lot easier. You're connecting those dots a lot quicker, obviously. Mm-hmm. So my goal here was just to get all the main angles of the arms and legs and muscles from all the main angles, and some twisting and stuff. And then the idea is now you should be able to kind of do every angle, at the end of the book. It's like, all right, go for it. Draw a guy again, and then to me, the most exciting thing is when people turn in their books. I flip to the first page and the last page, and I'm like, how much did they improve? So
so on page 1, you're drawing a guy first, so it's like the same image.
It's close to page 1.
Cool.
Let me get back. Oh man, this thing's taking forever. Give me 1 second.
That's a good idea, because it's almost like you get instant feedback of, did this book help me? Be better. Yeah.
Well, you also see it in the daily exercises. So because you're doing it first from memory and then repetition, you see in the daily. Oh, this is not working very good. You see in the daily exercises the progress, and then you get to see it from the global picture too, like at the start of the book and the end of the book. And so the first pages is just talking about what the testing effect is, how cognitive drawing works, how to do it, the basic rules, and then on page 7, day 2, it's when you first draw muscle man. And then at the very end, that's your last test as well. So
Nice.
yeah, that's cognitive drawing. That's the book. There's no like shortcuts. It's just, it's 90 days, half an hour a day probably is probably what you'll spend on it. And I'm actually making 90 videos of me doing every exercise in the book as well. And that's for a little higher tier, is the video tutorials, the video lessons.
Great.
And so, yeah, so you can see me stumble through it as well. It's
that's cool.
Right here, the $35, the book and 90 video lessons.
So almost like a master class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
And it's like this, this is me going through the lesson, and I have about 15 days done at this point. So I have a lot of work ahead of myself, just recording all these videos for everybody. But yeah, it's
nice.
Well,
it's cool. Like it's a nice guided way to get better at drawing, especially anatomy, which I think, especially, people on this channel, they're interested in comics. If you're going to make comics, you have to have characters, and generally speaking, anatomy is pretty important. I can't think of a single comic actually that has absolutely no figure in it. So you're going to want to have some anatomy down. So I think that's excellent. What about drawing from reference? I'm curious, like after you have been through this and just you and your own art, are you often looking at reference, or is it one of those things that like now you've got it in your head and you kind of know what to do? You've done it enough.
I don't really look at reference much. If I'm stuck on something, I'll look at reference, but I really enjoy just pulling things out of my head. The squid image, wherever that was, where did it go? Did I delete it? I don't know where it went. The squid image, I had to get a reference for that squid just to make sure that what's the eyeballs of a squid look like,
Yeah.
And they have this weird long tentacle. What does that look like? And but it's not so that I can imitate the style of that drawing, because here's the image I found online of a squid, and I was like, okay, this gives me all the information I need to know. I know it's fake. It's a 3D model, but at least I know it has this long piece, these long ones, has these kind of suction cups, and skinny and thick. And that's what the pupil thing looks like. It has this weird shaped thing here, So that's kind of the kind of reference I look for now. Every now and then, if I'm drawing a strange hand, I'll have to get a reference, or I'll take a picture of my own hand for that reference if it's strange or holding things or doing something weird, but for the most part, I can kind of knock these things out from memory now at almost any angle, and in the style that I'm looking for,
Cool.
So all these pages, nothing was from reference, but it's again, it's a really stylized thing,
but it looks fun. When does Phobos come out? I know you said you're gonna be launching crowdfunder.
I finished, so I have 2 soft covers that my patrons can have, or that have had access to, and they're about 100 pages each, 1 and 2. I'm going to put the 3rd soft cover up for my patrons to have it. It'll probably be in about 2 months when it's ready, and then I'm going to start planning the Kickstarter campaign, which would collect the first 3 into a hardcover or a nicely bound book. So it'd be a 300-page book of Phobos, Volume 1, and that's planned for the summer sometime, and that'll be on Indiegogo.
Cool. Yeah. Nice. I'll look forward to it. Yeah, I always love seeing what you're doing. And part of the whole package of crowdfunding is, I always say this, and I probably have gotten it from you just from looking at your blog just for years, but you want to give more than you're asking. And I think one of these things is giving, like, people are interested in comics, and often they're interested in learning how to draw. So it's cool to be able to help just share that. And it works so well within, like, okay, now we've got a comic, my comic that I'm coming out with. People just naturally are interested in, then, what are you doing? So I love that.
Yeah, I love making it surprising when they get the thing, you know, like for instance, on the cognitive drawing campaign, I haven't talked to them at all about what the quality of the book will be, but it has these fold out in sheets so that you can, you know, fold them over and cover up your reference. It's has this nice little tassel thing. It's
Wow.
it's nice sketch paper. It's a flexi bind, just a really nice sketchbook almost that this cognitive drawing is going to be printed on. So when you're done with it, you'll have this nice little archive of all your hard work, and you can see your progress. And you know, you're not going to want to throw this thing away.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the same with Phobos. You know, I have some really cool plans for how I want to put out the Phobos book. That's going to be a little different from my other books. You know, you were talking about Cithra, like it's just fun to make something that's just big and impressive and kind of overly produced, you know?
Yeah. I would like to do a book. I mean, I've done a trade paperback and it was nice, you know, I used a nice printer and everything, but it's like, someday I want to do that big fat hard cover that has just all the works, bells and whistles. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's so nice. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you. This is from Aaron Olson in the chat. And I was thinking about this too a little bit earlier. He says, will you please ask Jason to talk a little bit about talent? And so like, I kind of add to that is like, is there anybody that just cannot draw? Like, no matter the effort, they can't draw. But I don't know, how does talent play into?
Well, first of all, thanks, Aaron. Good to see you here. Talent, I wrote about it a lot back in Unnatural Talent when I was working on Remind. I would get frustrated with people saying, wow, you're a natural, you know, and people would come up to me when I was a little kid. Oh, you're so natural. And it frustrated me because it's like, I put so much work into learning how to draw that there's nothing natural about this. It's just because I'm obsessed with it more than you. I will go home and work on this until 1 a.m. every night after school, after dinner, because I'm obsessed with it. That's the reason I'm better than you, you know? You're going and playing video games, not you, Clint. You're going and playing video games or watching TV. You're better at that than me. I'll take that. Go ahead, be better at TV than me. Yeah. But the only reason I'm better is because I am more obsessed, you know? And I honestly think talent is not a gift. You know, if you want to look at it like, you know, God gave you this gift of talent. I think the gift is the obsession. It's the interest in a subject. What turns that spark? What sparks that ignition in our minds that makes us want to learn something? That's the gift. Like, I don't know where that comes from. You know what I'm saying? What made me as a little kid want to learn to draw so bad? And when I saw art and I was obsessed over it, and I saw Calvin and Hobbes and I saw Garfield, you know, like, I don't know where that came from. So I think that's the gift. Talent is just hard work. You know, it's just being so obsessed that you're focusing on this thing way more than anyone else would ever focus on it, you know? So I think that's what Aaron's talking about. And it's just what I think, you know?
I think that's a good explanation. Like for me personally, I think I know that I could be a decent artist. You know what I mean? Like if I work on it, but that's the problem though, is you stop if you're not like dedicated to it.
That's the thing is, like, you don't need to be a decent artist. That might not be the thing that you have that spark. You might have the spark for writing and putting books together or publishing or whatever it is, or script writing or movie making, you know? And there's nothing wrong with not having the spark to want to be the artist that you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Like everyone has a unique spark that they're going to obsess over, you know, and it can be misdirected. It can be squandered and ignored and used for evil or whatever. You know, but everyone has some unique interest that for some reason they gravitate to. And if they just flex those muscles and try to kind of listen to that voice that's calling them in that direction, I think a lot of amazing things happen. And you know, of course there's some bad voices in our heads too. Yes, you want this, you know? So yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of think of it as like there's a cost, there's a price that you have to pay for anything, and
Yeah.
you cannot be good at everything that there is to be good at in the
Yeah.
earth, so you're picking and
Yeah.
choosing, and it's usually easier for something that you feel driven to do, and I think like that was the big explanation I had just for my YouTube channel and writing. I just felt driven. I
Mhm.
didn't It's not like I had to force myself to do it. I had to do it,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
don't necessarily feel that way. It depends though. It'll change from month to month for drawing. And I
Oh,
wish like I
yeah.
want to focus on it more,
Yeah. And
but
that's
yeah,
how other things are for me. Like I have an
yeah,
interest in music, but I don't have an interest enough to focus on it every day, you know?
yeah,
So I kind of make stuff and it's fun. It's like more of a hobby. But it's, for me to be a musician and to actually get paid, and to live on it and to be amazing, it would require a crazy passion for it, that I don't have, and I don't need to be I don't need to be passionate about everything.
right,
And it's like it's accepting your strengths and weaknesses,
right,
like and also you might have five strengths, but if you focus on five strengths equally, you're going to be okay at all of them, so really like figuring out what strengths to ignore and focus on your very, very best strengths is sometimes the answer,
yeah,
for this thing called talent.
right. And that's why, it's good to have creative teams. I mean, well,
Mhm.
I would love to do the one man show like you do. For the most part, that's my dream. Someday I'll do that.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, it's great to be. I was talking to Eric Weathers last night, and he did a little how to on lettering,
Mhm.
and yeah, he's just fantastic with it. And so it's like I hire Eric to letter my stuff because he's got that skill down. He's put the time, he's paid the price
Yeah.
to become a good letterer. That
Yeah.
I'm gonna allocate my time and resources elsewhere. But I strongly suggest anybody that is doing comics, even if you are a writer, I think it's good to understand drawing and learn a little bit, if for no other reason than it
Yeah.
helps you to identify artists and have
Yeah.
better. You can talk the talk, I guess. You know what's
Yeah.
going on. So yeah, that's I think cognitive drawing is a good idea. Let me post that link again as well in the
Oh, yeah.
chat.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and even if you're even if you're a writer, I think, and you don't maybe want to be the greatest comic artist, there's such a strength in being able to visualize what you are trying to give to an artist.
Yeah.
So if you just spend a summer going through cognitive drawing and learning the basics, you'll be able to knock out some really quick. I think you would be able to knock out some really quick ideas onto paper to give to an artist, and you would solve a lot of problems, and there wouldn't be the back and forth that you would have to deal with, and they need more money because they have to redo it again. When I was working in storyboarding, the best directors were people who knew how to draw. At least they dabbled with it.
Hmm.
They could give me a little sketch of every angle scene. Like it might just be a stick figure type sketch, but they visualized it and they just plopped it onto paper, and I'm the one who has to beautify it. And so it's just it's so valuable. Just so it may not be your bread and butter, it may not be the thing you're going to get paid for, but it'll help everything else that you do. Just like I don't think music's going to ever do anything professional. Well, I know music will never do anything professionally for me, but practicing it, playing it, doing rhythm, putting compositions together and logic and all that stuff. It's fun and it's fascinating, and it somehow trickles into everything else I do. I put the
Hmm.
music on my YouTube channels, and it just it adds to everything else I'm doing. And art is the same way. If you're just get a little bit better at art, it's going to add to everything else you do. Your life is just going to be more artistic, for lack of better words.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I appreciate you being on the show. I got to get back to work.
gotta get back to
I've
work. I understand that.
posted
Yeah.
the link to cognitive drawing. I back it. It's a good idea. Summer's coming up. You can go through the summer and see how fast you can improve, how big you can improve, I guess. Not fast, but well, maybe fast too, depending on what you were doing
I think
before.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'll be impressed with how fast. And if anything, just try it out, download the 4-page sampler and try it and see if you like it.
Love it.
But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Jason. It's always good to talk to you. We'll have to do it again when Phobos comes out. Let's do it again for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Great.
Thanks for all your help, man.
No problem. All right. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you next time. Bye.